Welcome back to the Fluent Path English Podcast. I'm your host, Emma. Listen, something happened at this World Cup that we need to talk about immediately. A country just made their first ever knockout appearance, South Africa. They've been trying for years, 16 years, and they finally did it with a shock 1-0 win in the 63rd minute. But here's the thing, if you watched that match and didn't understand the commentary, you missed everything. That's the problem. Football language is alive, it's real, and in the next 20 minutes, we're breaking down the exact phrases that'll make you sound like you actually live this game. Daniel is here. He's a football fanatic and an English coach. He watched every group stage match. Daniel, before we go deeper, that South Africa moment, what were commentators actually saying when Maseko scored?
They were saying, that's a hammer blow for South Korea, and South Africa's got one foot in the next round. Those aren't random words. They're describing exactly what's happening on the pitch. Most people don't understand this language, but you're about to.
So right now, 32 teams are in the knockout round. Brazil's looking unstoppable, but Cape Verde, this tiny island nation, is about to face Messi. That's next. Okay, we need to address something. When you watch Brazil beat Scotland 3-0, commentators aren't just saying that was good. They're using language that literally predicts what's coming next in the tournament. But here's what's wild. Most English learners miss it completely. They hear the words but don't understand the strategy behind them. Daniel, how many different ways can you describe a team controlling a match?
Easily 30. You've got they're dominating possession, they're suffocating the opposition, they're playing like a well-oiled machine. Each one tells you something different. Let me break this down. 1. That was a brilliant bit of play. 2. The goalkeeper made a world-class save. 3. They're playing like a well-oiled machine. 4. He picked out a perfect pass. 5. That's a textbook finish. 6. The defense is holding the line well. 7. He's got all the time in the world and still messes up. 8. The pressure is building now. 9. They're pressing high up the pitch. 10. That's a dangerous free kick situation. 11. He buried that one in the back of the net. 12. The crowd is on their feet. 13. That's a last-ditch tackle. 14. The ball came off the post. 15. He's unmarked in the box. 16. That's a clinical finish. 17. The goalkeeper punched it away. 18. That was a lightning-fast counterattack. 19. They're suffocating the opposition. 20. He showed real composure there. 21. The defense is caught flat-footed. 22. That's a piece of magic. 23. The goalkeeper's distribution is key to this team. 24. That ball was pinged in perfectly. 25. The match is wide open now.
So when Brazil beat Scotland 3-0, you heard Brazil's playing like a well-oiled machine and Scotland's defense is caught flat-footed. That's not poetic language. It's diagnostic. It's telling you why Brazil won. But wait, there's something nobody's talking about. When Ecuador beat Germany 2-1, the commentators said something completely different. What did they say?
They said Germany's high line got exposed, and Ecuador's tactics are really on point. Germany looked like a different team. Why? Because the language changed. The tactical reality changed. That's what we're teaching you. To hear the change in language and understand it means the game is shifting.
This is exactly why the knockout round is going to be insane, because starting June 28th, there are no more second chances. One bad moment, one tactical mistake, and you're going home. And that's when the real drama happens. Here's a stat that'll blow your mind. Messi just became the all-time leading scorer at the World Cup. 18 goals. 18, and he did it against Austria while being 37 years old. Now, when you watch someone do something that incredible, commentators don't just say, nice goal. They use very specific language that celebrates the moment. But if you don't understand this language, you're literally missing the poetry of the sport. Daniel, what's the difference between that's a clinical finish and that's a piece of magic?
Everything. Clinical means calculated, precise, cold. The player knew exactly what they were doing. Piece of magic means unpredictable, beautiful, something only certain players can do. When Messi scored his record-breaking goal, which one did they use?
Both, because that's who Messi is. He's clinical and magical at the same time. But here's where it gets interesting. Vinicius Jr. tore Scotland apart with pace. Commentators said he's leaving defenders in his wake. That's not about precision, that's about power. Here are the real phrases.
26. He's on fire tonight. 27. She's pulling the strings in midfield. 28. That player is a human highlight reel. 29. He's got nerves of steel. 30. She's at the top of her game. 31. He's a shadow of his former self. 32. That's a moment of individual brilliance. 33. He's the engine of this team. 34. She's carrying the team on her back. 35. He's got ice in his veins. 36. That player is a game changer. 37. She's leaving defenders in her wake. 38. He's got a sweet left foot. 39. That's a striker's instinct right there. 40. She's the creative force in midfield. 41. He's got no pace tonight. 42. She's dictating the tempo. 43. That player never gives up. 44. He's a complete midfielder. 45. She's got vision that few players have. 46. That's a poacher's finish. 47. He's a brick wall at the back. 48. She's press resistant. 49. That player is a ball magnet. 50. He's got the heart of a lion.
So when you hear that's a poacher's finish, you know the striker read the defense perfectly. When you hear the heart of a lion, you know someone's fighting for everything. South Africa's Tapelo Maseko, commentators said he scored with the heart of a lion because his team had nothing to lose and everything to prove. That's the language. But here's what's coming next. The same type of performance language applies to teams, and that's where it gets really tactical. Wait, this is crucial. When Cape Verde made the knockout round, the smallest nation ever to do it, sports journalists did a full analysis of how they did it. They literally cracked the code, and the code is all about how they described their tactics. Daniel, how did Cape Verde play?
Cape Verde played what's called a compact defensive shape with quick counterattacks. They didn't try to dominate possession. They sat deep, stayed organized, and hit teams on the break. Commentators said things like, they're sitting deep and hitting on the break, and their tactics are really on point. This is strategy language.
So here's the phrases every knockout team will use.
51, they're setting up defensively. 52, that's a solid defensive shape. 53, they're playing 4-3-3. 54, he's switching the play beautifully. 55, they're dominating possession. 56, the press is suffocating them. 57, that's a counterattack waiting to happen. 58, they're sitting deep and hitting on the break. 59, she's dropping deep to receive the ball. 60, they're overloading the wings. 61, that's a classic inverted fullback move. 62, the midfield is the heartbeat of this team. 63, they're playing out from the back. 64, that's a false nine if I've ever seen one. 65, they're pressing from the front. 66, he's orchestrating the play from deep. 67, that's a narrow midfield setup. 68, they're stretching the pitch. 69, she's pulling the defense apart. 70, that's a textbook gang pressing situation. 71, they're using the fullbacks as wingers. 72, the team's shape is breaking down. 73, they're compacting the center. 74, that's a high defensive line. 75, the tactics are really exposed now.
Notice something. Exposed. When Ecuador beat Germany, commentators said Germany's high line got exposed. This single phrase changed everything. It means the other team figured out your weakness and is exploiting it. In the knockout round, this phrase will be everywhere because once you're figured out, you're going home. Brazil didn't get exposed. Argentina didn't get exposed. That's why they're favorites. But imagine being a smaller team in a knockout match where your tactics suddenly don't work. That's peak drama, and that's when the emotional language kicks in. This is going to happen. It's June 28th. Argentina versus Cape Verde, Messi versus a team from an island that nobody's ever heard of, and somewhere around minute 70, something's going to happen that will make people cry or scream or lose their minds. When that moment hits, commentators use very specific language. But here's the thing most people don't realize. This emotional language is predictable. You can actually anticipate what phrases are coming based on what's happening on the field. Daniel, walk us through a potential knockout moment.
Okay, imagine Cape Verde is 1-0 down. It's minute 85, and they've got a free kick from 25 yards out. The commentator's not just going to say free kick, they're going to create tension.
They'll say things like 76. That's an absolutely vital goal. 77. The tension in the stadium is unbearable. 78. He couldn't miss from there. 79. That was a real blow for them. 80. The momentum has completely shifted. 81. They've got their tails up now. 82. That's a hammer blow. 83. The energy in here is incredible. 84. That's a desperate tackle. 85. He's in the referee's ear. 86. That's a controversial decision. 87. The referee made a meal of that. 88. That's a soft yellow card. 90. He's gone down too easily there. 91. The crowd is in uproar. 92. That's a red card offense if I've ever seen one. 93. The team is rattled now. 94. They've lost their composure. 95. That's a killer blow. 96. The script is written now. 97. They've got one foot in the next round. 98. That's a heartbreaker. 99. The atmosphere is electric. 100. He's silenced the crowd. 101. They've got nowhere to hide now. 102. This is peak drama.
So the commentator says the tension in the stadium is unbearable before the free kick. Then the shot flies in. Now they say he's silenced the crowd if it goes in, or he's rattled now if it misses. The language follows the emotion. When South Africa beat South Korea, commentators were building tension. South Africa's got nowhere to hide, because if they lost, they went home. Then Maseko scored, and the phrase changed to, "That's a hammer blow for South Korea," and "they've got one foot in the next round." Same moment, language tells the full story.
And here's what's insane. In the knockout round, these dramatic moments happen every single match. Round of 32 starts June 28th. That's 16 matches of this intensity, 16 chances for commentators to use these exact phrases you're learning right now.
Which means when you're watching these matches, you're going to hear these phrases in real time and finally understand what's actually being said. But before we get to the knockout predictions, we need to talk about how fans, real fans, are talking about these teams right now.
Okay, here's what's happening right now on football Twitter, in pubs, everywhere. Fans are making predictions about the knockout round, and the language they're using, it's completely different from commentators. It's more raw, more confident, sometimes overconfident. Daniel, what are fans actually saying about Brazil right now?
Fans are saying Brazil's the real deal, and they're the ones to beat, and heavy favorites, no question. But about Cape Verde, fans are saying, I wouldn't write them off, and dark horse alert. And about South Africa, it's this could be their year.
Exactly. Fan language is about belief and doubt. Commentator language is about tactics and reality. Here's the fan phrases you need to know. 103. That team is the real deal. 104. They're the favorites, no question. 105. Dark horse alert. 106. This could be their year. 107. They've got all the ingredients. 108. That team is overrated. 109. They don't have what it takes. 110. The young guns are going to surprise everyone. 111. They're heavy favorites. 112. I've got a good feeling about them. 113. They're out of their depth. 114. That's a tough draw. 115, they're in a group of death. 116, they've got an easy route to the final. 117, I wouldn't write them off. 118, they're the ones to beat. 119, that team is injury-plagued. 120, they've got too many inexperienced players. 121, the chemistry is there. 122, I reckon they'll go far. 123, they're a spent force. 124, this squad has real balance. 125, that's a world-class team right there.
So when someone says, I wouldn't write off Cape Verde, what they mean is, I think they can beat Argentina. When they say dark horse alert, they mean this team might shock everyone. But when they say Brazil's heavy favorites, they're expressing mathematical certainty. These phrases aren't random, they're predictions wrapped in sports language. And starting June 28th, every single one of these predictions gets tested. Some will be right, most will be wrong. But the language will be everywhere.
And that's the magic moment. When you hear a fan say they're the real deal about a team, and then watch that team play, you understand both the confidence and the pressure. You understand why fans believe. You understand the human side of football.
Which brings us to the final thing we need to talk about. What happens when a prediction is wrong? What happens when a favorite gets eliminated? That's next.
So here's the real question. We've given you 125 phrases, but the World Cup knockout round is about to start, and half of these phrases you've learned will be proven wrong by reality. A favorite will get eliminated. A dark horse will make it further than anyone expected. An injury will change everything. When that happens, commentators will use all these phrases in ways you didn't expect. Daniel, how do you actually master this language for the knockout round?
You don't memorize phrases, you learn patterns. They're the real deal is a pattern of confidence. That's a piece of magic is a pattern of describing individual skill. The script is written is a pattern describing inevitability. Once you understand the patterns, you can predict what commentators will say before they say it. That's mastery.
So when someone says, I wouldn't write off Cape Verde, what they mean is, I think they can beat Argentina. When they say dark horse alert, they mean this team might shock everyone. But when they say Brazil's heavy favorites, they're expressing mathematical certainty. These phrases aren't random. They're predictions wrapped in sports language. And starting June 28th, every single one of these predictions gets tested. Some will be right, most will be wrong, but the language will be everywhere.
And that's the magic moment. When you hear a fan say they're the real deal about a team and then watch that team play, you understand both the confidence and the pressure. You understand why fans believe. You understand the human side of football.
Which brings us to the final thing we need to talk about. What happens when a prediction is wrong? What happens when a favorite gets eliminated? That's next.
So here's the real question. We've given you 125 phrases, but the World Cup knockout round is about to start, and half of these phrases you've learned will be proven wrong by reality. A favorite will get eliminated. A dark horse will make it further than anyone expected. An injury will change everything. When that happens, commentators will use all these phrases in ways you didn't expect. Daniel, how do you actually master this language for the knockout round?
You don't memorize phrases, you learn patterns. They're the real deal is a pattern of confidence. That's a piece of magic is a pattern of describing individual skill. The script is written is a pattern describing inevitability. Once you understand the patterns, you can predict what commentators will say before they say it. That's mastery.
So when you watch Argentina versus Cape Verde on June 28th, don't sit there hoping to hear these exact phrases. Instead, listen for the patterns. Listen for how commentators build tension. Listen for how they shift language when something unexpected happens. That's how you actually learn.
Exactly. And here's what I want people to know. These 125 phrases are your foundation. Master these, and you'll understand 90% of what's being said in the knockout round. But the other 10%, that's where the magic is. That's where new phrases get created. That's where language stays alive.
Because football is alive. The World Cup is happening right now, and the language is being created in real time.
Okay, listeners, here's what I want you to do right now. The round of 32 starts June 28th. Pick one match. Could be Brazil versus Japan, could be Argentina versus Cape Verde, could be Germany versus Spain. Watch it with English commentary. During that match, write down 3 phrases you hear that match what we taught you today. Then come back and tell us. Drop a comment, tell us which match you watched, which team surprised you, and which phrase made the most sense.
And honestly, the 20 minutes we just spent, that's your playbook for the knockout round. When you watch these matches starting in 2 days, you're going to hear every single phrase we broke down. You're going to understand the strategy, the emotion, the human drama. You're going to hear language being made in real time. That's not just football. That's poetry.
Thanks for breaking this down for us.
Thanks for having me. This tournament has just started. The real story begins now. Watch the knockouts, learn the language.
That's it for today's episode. This has been Fluent Path English. The World Cup is happening. Your education starts now. See you next time.